Hey, hello. It's Twanna Carter, and thanks for joining everybody. Happy Resilience Thursday, right. I love to say right. I'm working on it, right? I'm working on it. My name's Twanna Carter, and I am an anxiety and career coach. And I help professional women who are fed up with their anxiety holding them back, and what they want to do is to overcome that stress and doubt so they can get back on track in their life for success and happiness, because you don't have to choose between the two, right? There's another right, and I said I was going to work on that. That's just my go-to word. I got to figure out something else to say in there. However, I am so glad that you have joined me. We're going to give just a couple of more seconds, do a little chit chat, a couple more seconds to allow everybody time to jump on. Today's topic is overcoming performance anxiety. And before we get started, just a couple of notes, right? There is a comment box. You can send me a comment. You should also see a private chat if you wanted to leave me something there as well. And for those of you who catch me on the replay, as always, thank you. I do appreciate that. And you too can leave comments, because I do circle back to see if people have left comments, because I know not everybody can catch this live. For some of you, it's like really like 2, 3:30 in the morning. So I know that I have a lot of people in my group, and I do have a free anxiety group. Um, it's a community for women, and it's Rising Above Anxiety. If you want to join that, you can. And I was going to say, what prompted me is I have a lot of ladies in there that are in Europe, that are in India. So it's really early in the morning for some of them. So I know they typically catch it on the replay. Okay. I didn't say that R word. And as always, I do like to go through my routine, because that is how I manage social anxieties. I have a routine in place, and that is how I work at managing and keep managing my social anxiety. I do have some notes down here that I'll be looking at a couple times, and I don't even know if you can see me looking down when I glance to the notes. However, it just helps me to keep my anxiety in check. It's a routine list that I go to. That is something that when I have coaching clients, I do have them try to put in those routines, the things that help you feel comfortable and to be comfortable so you can perform at the level at which you wish to perform. So that is why I like to say, yes, I have a couple of notes. I'll be looking down at them to be sure I am telling you everything that I promised I would tell you. So, again, performance anxiety. Now, some of you may know this as stage fright, right? There's an R word again. We kind of know it as stage fright. Some of us may know it as freaking out, whatever name you want to put to it. Performance anxiety is when you know there's something you're supposed to do, and the anxiety kicks in, and it feels like sometimes you're having a heart attack. Just a whole host of things that can happen when you realize I'm about to go on. Like sometimes I do here, and that's why I try not to watch my clock count down, because if I start at like 2, 3 minutes out, the more that clock counts down, the more anxious I get. Even though I've done this time after time, I know, but I still get anxious. And so one of the things that I do is I don't try not to look at that clock countdown, because I know that revs up my anxiety. It's like you're running out of time. Oh my gosh. And then the next thing you know, I flipped over to fight or flight, and I got the butterflies in my tummy. Sometimes I feel nauseous, get the heart that starts pounding and beating. Now, I don't have anxiety attacks or panic attacks, but those are some of the symptoms of performance anxiety, stage fright, or freaking out because you know you've got to do something in front of a group of people, or present something, or go and perform. That's why we call it performance anxiety. So if you do dread getting in front of a group of people, even people you know, especially the ones you don't, doesn't even matter, you really are not alone. There are so many people who suffer or have struggles around getting up and talking in front of people. They call it stage right now. Some people would rather catch the flu and get sick than to stand up in front of people and talk, right? That that sounds kind of bad, but some people have that much fear. And again, it doesn't matter if you know the people you're speaking in front of or if you don't. It's the same thing. You just get that ball, that knot. It's like that knot of fear in your stomach. Um, and did you also realize that, you know, how you start to talk and you go, and you continuously have to clear your throat? That is a symptom of anxiety. That is one of the symptoms of anxiety. Some people call it the frog in the throat, where you consistently feel like you have to clear your throat and your voice squeaks when it comes out. That is a symptom of anxiety. It is a symptom of performance anxiety. So you definitely are not alone in that. So really, why am I talking about performance anxiety? Because depending on your job, performance anxiety can hold you back from getting ahead. It can hold you back from getting promotions. I've had clients that just sat in the same place because performance anxiety, they were too afraid. You know, the job and description and entertained getting up and giving presentations, and they loved everything else about the job except for that getting up and giving presentations. Couldn't do it. And so they kind of sat in that place, missing out on extra income, missing out on the ability to do something great at that particular job or another job because of performance anxiety. So at the end of the day, a huge reason why we do want to manage anxiety, performance anxiety could give your self-esteem a hit. You know what you know. But when you get up in front of people and it doesn't come off like you do know, you get the frog in your throat, your voice is kind of squeaky and it's high pitched and low pitched, and it's like you have no control over your vocal cords, right? And if the people you're presenting to, if they have a say so in your future, or if you're a minister, because some ministers do get stage fright when they have to give a sermon, that really does, it puts a cramp in your style. You don't perform as well as you could. So it's not only people who've got to speak, give presentations or give classes. Ministers have performance anxiety, athletes have performance anxiety, musicians have performance anxiety. So it's not just, a small thing. It does, again, it affects how you're going to get along in life, how you move forward, right? And of course, I told you that it doesn't, your self-esteem just takes a hit. And once your self-esteem starts to take the hit and it starts to fall, the next thing is your confidence. Your self-confidence also begins to plummet. And so after a while, if you don't manage that performance anxiety, your self-esteem drops, and so does your self-confidence, which means your self-worth. You start valuing yourself a little less, like, am I capable of doing this? And I can't do it right, and I don't know what's wrong with me. What am I going to do? All of that kind of factors in the reason why I'm talking about performance anxiety today, right? Now, some people, they do well, they can be under anxiety, a little anxiety, but it makes them sharpen their, like, it just kind of focuses, they get focused and it sharpens their game. Some of us, when we get to that point where it's all eyes on me, I've had incidences where my brain kind of freezes too. It just stops, and all thoughts, like, they just stop. And there's nothing but anxiety, nothing but anxiety. I'm totally in fight or flight mode. I can't think, and I definitely can't say anything because I got the frog in my throat. And it's, again, that high pitched squeal. And it's, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, you can get that high pitched squeal. It's like you can't quite moderate the sounds to come out correct. And it's embarrassing. I will say at the moment it's just frightening, right? But when you go back, at least this is me, I would go back and think about it, and I would just get humiliated. I would feel so humiliated and so embarrassed. And again, self-esteem, self-confidence. So yeah, being the center of attention does freak some people out. It's very, very stressful. And when you're stressed like that, your body acts just like there's someone attacking you, and you go into fight or flight. Your fight or flight mechanism is triggered, as if someone's trying to fight you, or you saw a snake if you're afraid of snakes, or you heard, let's say, the car wheel skidding. You are walking on the street, or you can be sitting in your car and you hear the wheels of a tire skidding, and you kind of jump like, what is that? Your body immediately goes into fight or flight. Do I need to run? Do I need to stay and fight? Being stressed because people are watching you or because you're afraid to perform, your body does the same thing. goes into fight or flight. It's like, what are the symptoms of being in fight or flight? What are the symptoms of performance anxiety? I told you a few. You get the frog thing in your throat. For me, it's like brain freeze as well. You get the rapid breathing and your pulse speeds up because your heart rate is sped up because your body is preparing you to stand and fight someone, or getting you revved up and giving you extra energy so you can run away to safety. That's what your body is thinking, even though, for whatever reason, your body didn't really recognize that you're getting ready to speak in front of somebody. It interprets it as stress. Okay, what are we gonna do? Run. And so this is a problem that I had also when I would speak in front of people. My hands would shake, and so I'd have my little notes, but my hand, the paper would rattle in my hand, and I down, and then every time I got ready to turn, and I couldn't get the paper. So trembling, that's another sign. And it's not just the hands, but my legs would shake. Typically one of my legs would shake. If it was really bad, they both would shake, and they will both shake to their own rhythm. If you can imagine that, trying to give a speech. And it was great if I felt like, oh, I have this podium I can hide behind, but then both legs would start shaking, and I couldn't, I got paper, I got to put the paper down and hold on to the podium because I'm shaking so bad. Again, totally embarrassing, but it's one of the symptoms of performance anxiety. So, sweaty, cold hands. Yep, I've had that too as well. Yep, that is one of the symptoms. And for me, it was nausea too. For some people, I know they throw up. Yeah. I don't know if you've realized that Adele has social anxiety, and there was a point where she was so nervous with performance anxiety, she actually projectile vomiting. Yeah. Yes, it's not just you, it's a lot of us that have anxiety, performance anxiety, right? And for some people, their vision changes. I know for me, my vision would go from this to this, and it's like I couldn't see out here. I couldn't recognize anything going on around me because it's like that tunnel vision will all come in, and I was focused on just the ball of nerves that I was. And so again, those are some of the symptoms when you go into fight or flight, those things that you feel. And it could be other things. Like I had, when I was in the military, I had a soldier, every time he had to take a test, performance anxiety, he got diarrhea. And so it was a laughing stock. They would go, "Where is Sergeant such and such?" They're like, where he is. And it's like, oh yeah, he's in the restroom. And bless his heart, he would get diarrhea all the morning before it was time for him to test. Because some of us, it's a fight or flight symptoms. Why diarrhea? Why nausea? When your body goes into fight or flight, it doesn't need to digest food. It's got its mind on two things: fighting or running. That's the flight part of it. So your blood is drawn away from your digestive system. And so one of the things that the body does to clear itself, you throw up or you have diarrhea. And some people actually have to urinate as well. You can do any of those or all of those. Never fun things when you're trying to get in front of someone and perform. I know. So really, performance anxiety is about that stress that's causing your body to flip into anxiety. It flips into anxiety, which is a fight or flight thing. So it really is, what you have to do is basically confront the fear, confront the vulnerability. For me, as someone with social anxiety, I was always afraid of being judged and found wanting. And oftentimes for a lot of us, that's what it is. We want to be perfect. We want to perform perfect. We want to give the perfect, sermon if we're a minister, and we want to play well if we're a violinist or a piano player. If we're, and you those poor guys that are the kickers for extra points on football teams, then they sit there and they watch the play, and then at the end, like, it's just all you got to do is make this goal and we win. Performance anxiety much? Probably, right? So the thing is we have to confront that fear and realize that you don't necessarily get, like I told my clients, I do not cure anybody of anxiety. Anxiety is a protection mechanism, so we don't cure people of anxiety. It is about learning to manage it so that you can corral that energy and use it for good. And that's really what managing performance anxiety is all about. And understand also that it's okay to make mistakes. We're not perfect, and it's okay to make mistakes, but the more you fear making mistakes, the worse performance anxiety actually is. And I know for me, I was a perfectionist for many, many, many years. I tell everyone I am a recovering perfectionist, but in the quest to be perfect, it does create a whole lot more performance anxiety than needs to be. The second thing that you have to do is learn how to corral that energy, that anxious energy, corral it, and then use it to dispel negative thoughts and concentrate on what you have to do. And so it is about, instead of thinking what can go wrong, think about what can go right. That's the ticket. You got to think about the things that go right, because if your mind is solely wrapped up in thoughts of what's going to go wrong or how bad you're going to be and people are going to laugh at me and they're going to talk about me, I'm not going to do well, you're going to live up, because that's what you're thinking you're going to do, and that's what you probably are going to do. So you really have to change that thought pattern, right? So what are some things you can do? Because here's like the meat of this. What are some things you can do yourself to manage that performance anxiety? So number one is, anytime you have to do something, if it's playing soccer, football, if you're a cheerleader, piano, clarinet player, trumpet player, minister, practice, 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 practice. I can't say that enough. The more you practice, Alexandria says, wonderful evening to you, Dr. Carter. Thank you. Thank you. The same to you. The more that you practice, and not just sit, but walk through the motions, practice, do that, because you're teaching your brain, like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do it well. We're going to do it well. Here's what we're going to do. In addition to that practicing, which is like totally separate though, the second thing is mental rehearsal. Now, if you don't know what mental rehearsal is, believe it or not, many athletes do mental rehearsal. So what is a mental rehearsal? So yes, I told you to practice. If you're giving a speech, stand up, and it's always great if you have to give a speech, stand in front of the mirror and talk to yourself and look yourself in the eyes as you're talking. Number one, it teaches you to remember your speech. Number two, you're looking yourself in the eye and you do feel ever so silly talking to yourself, but you're practicing, and that's what's important. Mental rehearsal is different. You're actually going to sit down, close your eyes, and imagine you're in the setting that you need to perform in. So if it is giving a presentation, sit down in that chair and concentrate and just imagine yourself already on the stage at the podium. Notes are there, but you really don't need them because you got this. Literally mentally rehearse how you're going to say it, what you're going to say, and how you're going to say it, and when you're going to say it. Go through the whole thing yourself. You're on that stage. You're imagining, and you're imagining as you look out at the people and you look across. And also, for me, it was great. I would meet people eye to eye. That was one of my secrets of performing in front of people. But literally imagine yourself standing there, looking out at that crowd and meeting people eye to eye, nodding heads, and then looking at your presentation. If you got a clicker, I always have to practice a clicker thing because I inevitably roll backwards. But in your mental rehearsal, yes, I have the clicker. I'm clicking in the right direction. I've got the slides up. Everything is working well. Rehearse your entire, whatever it is you got to do. Even if you're a soccer player, you know what your soccer plays are. You know what your teammates are. You practice together. You literally sit and just mental rehearse. Go through your mind. Where in the field you're going to run to. If someone runs from your left, what are you going to do? If someone runs from your right, what are you going to do? How are you going to behave? How are you going to run? How you kick the ball? Who do you kick it to? Who's the teammate that you know is there? Literally mentally rehearse all of that, everything over and over and over. You practice and you do the mental rehearsal. When it comes that day to perform, you've already trained your brain to perform. You literally step into the role and you perform. It is a wonderful way of practicing to get rid of that performance anxiety. So I do a lot of sitting in my head, going through things and talking about it and talking it over. Whether, I'm speaking to a crowd of 25 or I'm speaking to a crowd of 4,000. I sit and I do that mental rehearsal, and it does help because I don't do really well. I do okay. I should say not really well, but I really don't like reading from my notes. I prefer to just wing it all the way. And if you've got quite a bit to say, that's a little much, right? But after I do a mental rehearsal, I have the notes there, and all I'm doing is glancing every so often, and I can go through because I mentally rehearsed and I know it. That's the other piece of doing a mental rehearsal. It is very, very helpful. Again, lots of athletes use it. People may remember Michael Phelps. He does mental rehearsal. Now, I'm not saying you got to do his face and all that, but hey, if that helps you out, go for it, right? Some other things that you also want to do on the day that you're performing is do limit your caffeine and do limit your sugar intake that day, because they can make you nervous, make you a little hyper naturally because you're taking these chemicals into your body. And also make sure that you eat a sensible meal. I know for me, there have been times where I just could not eat at all because I got nausea and I couldn't eat. So the thing to do is eat a good, really good meal the day before. So if you are one of those people who was like me, can't eat the day up, do a little bit of snack because you do need some energy, right? And so, again, it talks about eating things like yogurts and beans. The protein in there is really what's going to last with the oats and things like that. It'll stay with you and it won't give you that energy peak and then you crash because your energy crashes, right? And so, you do want to, when you're speaking, like I said before, one of the things that worked for me, and it doesn't work, these won't necessarily all work for you, but pick out the things that will work for you. When I'm giving a speech, because I have social anxiety, so I recognize a crowd as danger. And if you have anxiety, that's what you're doing. You're recognizing a crowd of people as dangerous or danger to you. So for me to get over that, I would, if I'm, especially when I'm sitting on stage, I would make eye contact with people the closest that were to me. And what I found out is when I started making eye contact, they weren't dangerous. Many of them would nod. I don't know if they were nodding in pity because, like, girl, I know you about to go on. So glad it's not me. I don't know what it was, but some of them would just nod back and people would smile, which means now you're building that rapport with your audience. And it's not, whoops, that's what we don't do when we forget to turn off our ringer on a live. Hey, mistakes happen. But yes, I would make eye contact. Now you've got some people you've built rapport with in the audience, and they're not necessarily a danger. And if you're one of those people like, can't make eye contact, get a place just above everybody's head. So it doesn't look like you're staring off in space, but get a space just above their head and give your speech to that space. Because you're not meeting anybody's eyes, but you can't really tell from a distance anyway. So that's one of the things that also worked for me. Of course, doing a deep breathing, relaxing. And this is all about really setting a routine that you go through. For instance, my routine before I do lives, I get in my headspace. I call it my head game or headspace. I got to get into that headspace. And then when I come on, I greet everybody. And then I tell them, hey, I'm looking at notes. So because my brain always goes, if you're looking at notes, you don't know what you're talking about. Because those are some of the negative thoughts that roll through. Again, recovering social anxiety person here, those are some of the negative thoughts that take hold. So rather than feel like I'm cheating by looking at notes, I always let you guys know I am looking at notes. Every so often I'm going to glance down, and that kind of quiets that voice in my head that says you're a cheater, and if you knew this stuff, you wouldn't even have to look at your notes. Why do you need all that stuff? Is gone to the wayside. Hey, everybody, I have notes. Okay. I also tell everybody about there's a chat if you need to leave me a message. These are the things that I do because that's a routine I've established that helps me to perform. And whether I'm performing here on a live or whether I'm in a room of people, I still go through the same. I have a routine that I go through that helps me to shift my focus from me and shift it to the crowd. Because really that's what you're doing. You're providing a service to whomever it is you're speaking to. Teammates, shift that focus off yourself and make sure you avoid thoughts, avoid thoughts of self-doubt and this is going to go bad, this is not going to work. You want to banish those thoughts, and that's, again, I do that by going through my routine. And really, I talked about the breathing. You can meditate, you can pray, all of those things. Mindfulness will help you to manage that anxiety so that you can perform how you want to. And so really, and also the last thing is act natural and just be yourself. I know that for me, as someone who's had social anxiety for most of my life, if not probably all of my life, but I found it in my younger days to look at this speaking. I found it to ache into acting. I had a role I needed to play. I had something I needed to do. So I found that in my mind, I would go on stage and my performance was my speech. So I tend to be a quiet person. If I don't know you very well, I can just sit in the back of the room and be just as happy as pie sitting by myself or looking out at everybody else. I'm an introvert, quiet. I have social anxiety. That makes me happy. But you got to give a speech and you can't sit in the back of the room. For me, that's a role. And so that's how I looked at it. I looked at it as an acting role. I come out, I get into, and in my headspace, I get into that role and I perform. And I do as well as I need to do when I perform. When it's over with, I walk off stage. In my mind, I walk out of that role. Then I can be me who I normally was, right? So I get, yes, you want to act natural and be yourself, but I also look at it as a role that I play. And there have been some people that said that's how they got over social anxiety, by acting like it's a role that you play. You don't have to play it all day long. You just need to play it for that 5, 10, 20, 30, however long you got to, speak or play. Play that role. And when you're done, you get to walk off stage, having been successful. And then you can go back to being whoever it is you want to be. It just worked for me for many, many moons. And even when I'm like, I've had people ask me to do things like at the last minute where I do not have time to put in the practice that I'd like to, the enough practice that makes me feel comfortable. And I've been put on a spot several times like that. And I don't like it. I'll be upfront and say, I do not like it at all. However, I get in my head game and I said, you need to walk on here and perform, walk into this role. It's a performance. You're acting this role. Do it, get it over with, and when you're done, you can walk off stage and be whoever you want to be. And that just really works. I mean, that has really worked wonders for me. So keep in mind that stage fright is normally worse than the actual performance. And it's usually worse right before, but then it goes away when you get started. And no matter how nervous I am doing these lives, as soon as I start talking, it just kind of dissipates and it goes away because I'm performing in that role. And I know that the role is only going to last a few minutes, and then I can walk off and be whoever I want to be. So those are my motivational nuggets for you today. I told you I would talk to you about performance anxiety. I told you what it was. I told you some of the symptoms. And I told you some strategies for you to get over that performance anxiety. And it doesn't matter what you do, if you're an athlete, a musician, a doctor, a nurse, minister, teachers, student, we all can get performance anxiety. But use some of these strategies. Again, they may not all work for you. Pick out the one that is best for you. So again, if you found this helpful, be sure to share it with your friends. Give me a thumbs up, like the video. And I will see you back here on next Tuesday at 7:30. And I'm going to have another exciting topic for you. And again, let me just say that I do thank all of you who watched me on the replay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I do appreciate everybody who joined me live. And hopefully you found what you were looking for. And if you have issues with performance anxiety and you would love, right, to talk to a coach and figure out what do I need to do to get over performance anxiety because you tried these things and you feel like you need a coach to help you through this, I do provide complimentary coaching consultations. Come in, sit down, and you will walk away with a plan for how to move forward, right? I'll drop that in the chat as soon as I am done. Otherwise, have a great Thursday evening, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.